Senior BJP leader Smiti Irani now joins us on this broadcast. Smiti ji, from the Muslim bodies we are hearing the following points of objection, that even in Hindu temple trusts, in many of them there are no women. Why are women being pushed into this? There's no objection, they're saying, but do the same for Hindu temple bodies as well. Why is the government, in their opinion, trying to enforce its views on a minority institution? Smiti Irani.
I think at the onset, let me clarify that when we engage with stakeholders across the country and the community with regards to what are the amendments expected under the Waqf Act, two challenges that were dominant was the fact that many Muslim women were being denied their inheritance rights by not only mutawallis but also from the Waqf board itself. And Muslim women themselves felt that for them to have a representation, for somebody on the board to recognize issues with regards to their gender, with their rights, there is a need for female representation on the board. Hence, anybody who's objecting to the government providing for Muslim women to have a very respectful representation and intervention on the board is genuinely doing a great disservice to women of the Muslim community. Secondly, if you look at the board and its functionality in totality, how is the board currently functioning? As we speak, Rahul, if you go to the website of the Telangana Waqf Board, you will find that the Telangana Waqf Board is also giving certificates for marriage, for divorce, and is also giving khula. Now, there has been a media agency that has done an investigation post the ban on triple talaq that these board members now, some of them are technically to facilitate men who want to abandon women, are giving khula. And women who are victims of this act by that Waqf board are running around helter-skelter trying to find some legal refuge, some legal support for their very livelihoods, for their very marital status. So to look at the board from the myopia of only property would be again not understanding how boards right now are functioning across the country.
Okay. One is the issue, ma'am, of women.
Let me add that the board in Andhra Pradesh.
Okay, please complete what you're saying.
The board in Andhra Pradesh, in fact, turned a fatwa into a resolution of the board and declared that Ahmadiyyas are non-Muslim. So what the government today has proposed will not only enhance efficacy of the board, not only protect the rights of men and women and children of the Muslim community, but also bring about a lot of transparency in how boards are operationalized and are made functional. Additionally, the fact that state governments are involved in not only constituting the board, but also district administrations have been empowered to bring the functionality of the board into a legal framework is also something that now I hope will find an elaborate national platform for discussion.
The second point that's being raised as an objection is that if you look at a Hindu temple, there are no Muslim members typically part of the Hindu temple trust. So why should it be said that in the Waqf board, people from all religious denominations can be members? And if it is to be done, why not enforce and introduce the same in all Hindu temples as well?
Firstly, this amendment that has been proposed by the government is not an amendment to run a masjid or a dargah or how a Qabristan is to be day-to-day functionally run by a man or a woman. The amendments proposed by the government have to do with the functionality of the board and the relationship of the Waqif or the individual who constitutes a Waqf, and because of creation of the Waqf, how they can find support by either administration or find legal refuge in the courts. So for somebody to here presume that the government intends to run masjids is actually creating deliberate mischief with regards to what is being proposed today by the Government of India through the introduction of the Ummeed Bill. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that if you look at all the amendments that are being proposed by the government, what are they? One, that whoever constitutes a Waqf has to be a Muslim. Now, the provisions that were brought forth by the Congress-led UPA allowed even non-Muslims to create a Waqf. Why is it that these so-called Muslim sympathizers of, let's say, somebody either in the clergy or somebody in the community did not take umbrage or oppose the fact that even non-Muslims were allowed to create waqfs? Because Waqf, by its very definition, is an element of how Islam is to be practiced. So those who do not practice Islam, how are they allowed under the Congress-led UPA to create a Waqf is an issue which is meant for debate and deliberation. Secondly, if you look at what has been proposed by the government, when they talk about creation of the Waqf, there are scores of cases which have come to light when people say, I create a Waqf, but the board does not satisfy and recognize and certify the fact that I have created a Waqf. What the government now has proposed is not only that the Waqf deed is to be registered, but also that the board now duly has to give the certificate to the person who has created the Waqf. Third, there have been many cases that people have been running between the board and the tribunal trying to get justice when mutawallis, which if you use a common language are maybe managers of that particular waqf or that particular property, have usurped lands. In fact, Rahul, I would like to bring to your notice that it is India Today which did a story in the year 2017 where mutawallis, the so-called managers, were selling away lands of masjids, of dargahs, of qabristan in black, in cahoots with certain board members.
Okay.
Now, I wonder why the opposition didn't take umbrage when lakhs of acres of Muslim masjids, dargahs and qabristans were being sold away by these dalals. So if you look at all the provisions that have been proposed by the government, these provisions have been proposed to protect the real custodians and owners of that waqf or that property.
The other point that's being raised as objection is the timing of the amendment. They're saying there's a big election in Maharashtra, Jharkhand, Haryana, that because the government feels that you have to somehow bring it back to a Hindu-Muslim kind of narrative, therefore the likes of the AIMM, the others are saying that this is being done with an eye on the forthcoming assembly election where the government feels on tricky wickets to try and bring it back on a Hindu-Muslim kind of narrative. How do you respond to that?
Rahul, tell me something. If the board elects Muslim women to the board, how does it affect a Hindu? If the board is now constituted of Shias, Sunnis, Aga Khanis, Bohras and Ahmadiyas, how does it affect Hindus? And is the opposition of the opinion that Muslims reside only in Jharkhand, Haryana and Maharashtra? And that there are no Muslims in any other state? Did the government, when we introduced the bill, say that this is meant only for Jharkhand, Haryana and Maharashtra? There has been exhaustive consultation which has been undertaken with state governments, with state waqf boards, with people from various facets of the community, including, like I said, Bohras, Aga Khanis, Ahmadiyas, women, poor children who've been running around trying to ensure that their inheritance and their rights are not usurped by either a board member or by a mutawalli who's a manager. After all these consultations and engagements, that is when the government has proposed these amendments. And I would compliment the government that after exhaustively responding to every charge of the opposition, even then, it is the government that proposed the constitution of the JPC. So how is it stifling the voice of the minority community? In fact, the government has not only strengthened the property rights of the Muslim community, but also given Muslim women a respectful and legal framework of pursuing their inheritance rights, pursuing their right to be a leader on waqf boards so that they can work towards, and generously so, towards protecting the rights of other Muslim women in the community.
Well, you made certain points. We're going to get the opposition parties that have been opposing these amendments now to respond to them. Smiti Irani.
And Rahul?
Yes, ma'am.
On a parting note, Rahul, I have for the past 1.5 years functioned as the Central Waqf Council's chairperson. I'm a woman and I'm not a Muslim, I'm a practicing Hindu. And I think that anybody who says that if you're a woman or a non-Muslim and cannot diligently, under the ambit of the constitution, serve the purposes of the Muslim community, I think this government has, through its practice and through its administrative abilities, in fact proven that we have upheld not only the rights of Muslim women, but we've also protected the rights of poor Muslims in this country.
Okay, those are important points. We'll take them up now. Smiti Irani ji, thank you very much for joining us on the News Track.